are the different types of assessments? What can a parent, caregiver, educator expect when it comes to assessments in general?
Well, as you all know, I could talk about this all day and all night. In the work that I do at Teen Therapy Center and Family Therapy Center of Silicon Valley, there are many different child-based assessment tools that I use. But to be honest, for me personally, it kind of all starts with your brain. And that's the cognitive piece that you see right there on the top. Folks sometimes scratch their head and say, well, I'm worried about a learning disability. Why can't we just test math or test reading? Well, processing and how we take information into our brains, make sense of it, and turn it around and have output has a huge stage setting event on then how we are as students. So getting a good cognitive baseline about how the different parts of our brains communicate with each other is extremely important and telling about an individual. Comparing that cognitive output or baseline with your academic achievement, what you're capable of as far as your reading, math, and all that kind of stuff is really, really vital. But when we have kids who have learning challenges, especially those that are undiagnosed, that can lead to lots of behavioral issues. And sometimes behavioral issues are what leads a family to get an assessment. My kid is acting out in class, they're disrupting others. I think they have ADHD. I think they have this. I think they have that. And so using cognitive and achievement testing can really give us the starting points to get to the ideas of what could be causing behavioral issues within peers or within a classroom environment. Executive functioning is also really important. It's a very, very fancy way of saying, how do we get from A to B? It has nothing to do with being a CEO or someone in an actual corporation, but it's, hey, I have a test on Friday. Today is Tuesday. What are the things I might need to do to achieve the result I want on that test? And how do I initiate that? How do I get motivated? How do I plan it, organize it, get going? All those sorts of steps are executive functioning. When we have breakdowns in those areas, which, as Jess sort of said, are not always diagnosable, but are actual real pinpoints for intervention, that can lead us to help a child really change their academic world. So sometimes kids who have those A to B sorts of challenges get misdiagnosed with they're not paying attention or they're not trying, or they might have a learning disability when in fact they really need help with their executive functioning. Now, this is all sort of a domino waterfall effect that can lead to emotional and mental health challenges or issues. So if you're not feeling really positive as a learner for whatever variety of reasons that we've already sort of very, very briefly touched upon, that can lead to stress and anxiety, that can lead to school refusal, it can lead to depression, it can lead to all sorts of emotional issues, withdrawal from peers. So sometimes if we can't identify those and sort of treat them, academic and educational interventions will fall short or kind of bounce off because we're so anxious or so wound or so depressed. So understanding a child's emotional or mental health status will help us drive a treatment process. Developmental challenges. Do we have anything in the mix as far as autism or any other delays or things that might be going on that would be impacting all of the above? And then I threw in there, and this is not common for younger kids, but it really does still come up, but a risk for violence. What have they been exposed to? Do we have siblings who have issues, older siblings? Do we have violence in the home? Anything that might be putting them at risk to either act out violently or to be a victim of violence. And substance abuse. Is there access to substances? What kind of school environment or peer environment are they in that might give them the opportunity to, instead of addressing their issues, maybe numb out a little bit. And unfortunately, I've seen it get younger and younger and younger in many different states of kids that I work with. So, that's a really quick overview of the many different types of child-based assessments.
I mean, clearly it's quite a comprehensive process,
Yeah.
and we don't have to go into full depth, but I'm curious, just as a one-off, how long this process could take. If you did a comprehensive full assessment, how long does this usually take for a family? What should they expect?
Well, there's obviously what they should expect in a school system versus what they should expect
Yeah.
privately. So speaking from the private perspective in a clinic, I typically get folks in within about a week or two. So because I always joke, my patients are always leaving. I don't have that ongoing therapeutic relationship, so that we do have an endpoint to what we're doing together. So I work with my kiddos, or my teens, from anywhere from 4 to 6 hours face to face in 2 hour
Okay.
increments. After that, it takes about a week to pull together all the data, create a really nice report that is layperson friendly, that we can go over the nuts and bolts of, and hopefully have parents leaving that meeting knowing that they could stand on the corner and teach it to anyone.
I
Uh,
love that.
yeah, well, and that's really
The
my goal.
goal.
That's really my goal, is that you don't leave with an expensive stack of paper, you leave with an actionable document. So to answer your question, if we're in a situation where we're really under the gun for some sort of a deadline, we can get all that done in 2 weeks. If we're more lax, like, hey, we just need to get this going, and the kid has lots of stuff on their schedule and sports, and we're going to space things out, it could take 3 or 4 weeks. So, it's really dependent upon the calendars and the planets lining up, but I would say anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks.